We are back here talking about lay ministers in the church and all that they do. And I'm very blessed to have Barry Little with us here. He is the director of adult religious education at our parish here. So he has quite a few different ministries within that title. He coordinates OCI, which is Christian Initiation for Adults, every year. And, so far, how many years you've been, at least 10, 12, 15 years here?
12, 15.
Yeah, something like that. You've had, 20, 25 people almost every year that I can remember, because we baptize and confirm a lot every year. So
Brought in several hundred people.
Which just reminds me, as you're watching this particular podcast, please ask a few friends, just an invitation, because the first part of OCIA is really just inquiry. They can just ask questions. Now, we're very blessed because Barry's full-time. So what happens is, if you have a friend that's interested in becoming Catholic, they can call our parish, call the parish office, ask for Barry. They can come in and meet with him before the official classes begin in September, where they begin like second weekend, third week in September, middle of September. So go ahead and do that. Ask, please, 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 invite people to come. Again, they don't have to make any decisions for the first part of RCA. It's not until the rite of sending, rite of election.
Well, they call it the rite of entrance now.
They love changing these names, so change the terms. But basically, it comes a point where we ask the person, are you seriously considering about converting to Catholicism? And if you are, from now, which is usually December until Easter, is a little more intense, a little more serious, And then at any time, if they choose they don't want, they can do that. We've had no obligation. We're not going to baptize you against your will, that's for sure. So anyway, it's wonderful. So it's good to have you here, Barry. In addition to doing OCIA, you also do adult religious education classes. You also help out with being a sacristan, which is great. So you do a lot of good things.
Well, over these years, I've probably done just about every ministry here, other than youth ministry. I've never gotten into that, but everything else we've seen.
You're getting to do youth ministry with all your grandchildren now, aren't you? So that's kind of fun. So yeah, I'm sure you're great. So the question I've been posing is, how do you see lay ministry bringing people closer to God?
Oh, well, personally, for me, it brings me closer. And it's not that we bring people so much, it's that we just walk with them. Yeah. We really just, it's a spiritual journey, a pilgrimage. I'm very big on the pilgrimage theology there. And that's what we do. The team, the OCIA team and myself, we just walk with them while they travel this path.
And not an easy path. So for a lot of these people, I know I kind of enjoy going in there each year and asking them some questions about, well, what led you here? And I always just find it interesting what led all of them. The stories. It really is. It's the stories. And remember, a couple of them had been wanting to become Catholic for like 50 years. 50 years they had wanted, and they just, because their children and grandchildren and because of their work, they just never found the time.
Well, what it is they're finally cooperating with the workings of the Holy Spirit. And once they start that, the grace pours in and they continue.
I can only imagine how you feel at Easter when I'm baptizing these people. You're seeing them get baptized and confirmed. And I know it's just such an exciting time, in their lives. And particularly those that have really struggled to be there,
Yeah, some people have trouble a little bit, but I think it depends on how much baggage you bring with you. Yeah. A lot of people are very wounded. Others are, they're running full force.
And you may ask, well, Father, why do y'all have so much youth ministry? Why do you care so much about, our religious education for children, our junior high youth ministry, high school youth ministry? Well, that's part of it, because we want to help people not get wounded. We want to help people not have to have all this baggage, that bring with them. And so it makes it really difficult it's almost like, you've got all this stuff in front of you that you can't see God, because you've got just stuff. And we're just Christ is a great physician. We're trying to pull this away so that they can be healed. I mean, they certainly can be healed.
How many times have I heard myself say that if I only knew then what I know now, it would have made it a lot easier.
Yeah, wow. Isn't that the truth? And so that's part of the reason why we want to mentor many of these young people, and what you're doing is you've had quite a few families in the last couple of years.
Got a couple this year coming.
You're able to help the family, and just to see the whole family involved is really nice. But if it's, whoever it may be, we really do love that and take time with that. And then also you teach a lot of classes.
Well, they don't teach, I facilitate.
And I like that. I mean, I know I find myself trying to teach a lot of classes, more of a teacher, but you're a great facilitator. And so for those of you out there that are wondering, I mean, you have a Bishop Robert Barron, who has produced a lot of programs of Catholicism. He just has a new one coming out now too on the cathedrals, right? In France, right? Incredible. Okay. And then you have Father Mitch Pacwa. He's done quite a few series. You've had Brant Petrie done quite a few series. The Bible Timeline. Really good. Like how many times have you facilitated the Bible Timeline?
Dozens. Yeah, exactly. And they finally updated it. Now they've got a whole new one coming out. But
I can remember one time you had class in the morning and in the evening. In the morning and in the evening, because some people come in the morning, some people come in the evening. And that's the advantage, really, of having the full-time lay minister working here at the church.
We've had times here where we've done 4 days a week, morning and evening, with different classes, and involving 100 people probably.
And the advantage that you have to being a facilitator as opposed to teaching is, you're getting the most authoritative resources out there, probably.
I always want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Yeah, and if there's not a priest,
but even and Donald, I know I laugh with Donald Paul, our co-producer here of Saints in the Parish podcast. I always laugh with him a little bit because there is a lot of theological stuff that he knows more than I do, and I have no problem admitting that. Partly because he just finished his master's in theology in the last couple of years, and I think last year. And I was 40 years ago, okay? So it's, ask me if I have kept up with all of my readings over the last 40 years. Please ask me that question. And the answer is no, I haven't. I mean, I wish I could. I have 7 books sitting on my desk that I would love to read right now, but I don't seem to get around to them as well. So I'm really blessed to have him. He can help us produce this podcast and help us with a lot of classes. And I know, and so you're doing the same thing. You're relying on the Bishop Barons, and we pay a royalty to them, so that helps their ministry too, because anything that we use, we have to get permission. We don't use it without their permission, so we purchase all of that. I mean, that's just.
Well, now you also talk about us leading people to it, but it also has a lot to do with what we get from our ministry, just personally it does. And a lot of these ministries affect me greatly. The OCI is one. I tell you another ministry that really has made a difference in my life continually, and that is being a Eucharistic minister or a extraordinary minister of Holy Communion. I would love to encourage people to be aware of these ministries. When I distribute communion, as I contemplate my unworthiness to be able to receive, how much less worthy am I to distribute to those? And every time you look at somebody in the eye that receives the host, it's like an examination of conscience. When I distribute the precious blood, if you notice, when you hand them the chalice, I see myself in the reflection of that chalice. That strikes me deep.
Yeah, I mean, it probably should. I mean, it really should. And I'll also just remind you that a lot of these people wouldn't be receiving communion if you didn't have Eucharist ministers, because on the weekend we have 8. Because there's no way that the priest can give communion to 650 people. See, and the ordinary minister of the Eucharist. I mean, it's just no way. I mean, we would be in there for literally probably an hour, and so yeah. I think I've maybe once or twice I've had to give communion because it was one of those holy days that everybody came and there wasn't anyone, scheduled. And so I ended up giving communion out, and it literally did take about 20, 25 minutes. I was like, oh, well, here we go. You know what I mean? So, so good. Thank you for doing that. Also, we probably have 45 Eucharistic ministers that bring Holy Communion to the shut-ins. And, I go out and anoint them occasionally, once, probably every other month. Father Martin goes out once a month. I go out once a month and anoint them. But I was just thinking there's no way we'd ever be able to have the time to bring all those people communion, So thank you for help facilitate that too. So we appreciate all that you do for the church, and thank you for your hard work and for all of your effort in helping to walk with. I love your image of walking with these people in OSA. So God bless you. So we are here talking to many of the lay ministers that work at the church, happen to work at my parish at St. Lawrence in Fairhope, Alabama. But you have, obviously, all of you have a bookkeeper that takes care of your, all you paying your bills and getting the collection and making sure the collection gets deposited and all that. And you may sit here and go, well, Father, what does that have to do, with Christ's ministry, in the church? And that's a really good question. That's the very question that I'm asking, because we realize that if we don't take care of all of our bills and making sure everything gets paid on time, accurately, and also making sure that we receive all the tithing dollars, get them properly recorded. We got all kind of IRS requirements that we have to do. Like you obviously know that we are required to send you a statement by January the 31st or so to make sure that the previous years, all of your tithing is recorded, unless you, of course, just put cash in there. But nowadays, it seems like everyone is using an envelope, using a check, or nowadays they're using, electronic, ways to give. And so Susie Blackington is my bookkeeper here at St. Lawrence, and she actually facilitates that. So she facilitates making sure that if you want to do direct deposit, you're able to do direct deposit. Or if you want to write a check, we get all those checks deposited. And we just recently made a change in how we do that. And so it just accentuated the need to really have someone competent that's really doing that. So I guess the question is, how do you see, the everyday working in the office, paying bills, and and making sure the collection is taken care of? How do you see God working through your ministry?
I see it every single day in every parishioner. As Catholics, we're called to stewardship, and I have the privilege of witnessing our parishioners giving their time, talent, and resources in the most generous of ways. We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing at St. Lawrence without their contributions, whether it's time, talent, resources. Of course, we need resources such as tithing.
Yeah, and we have a lot of volunteers, but the volunteers work with a lot more of the lay ministers that work in the church. They work with Barry, they work with Jenny, they work with Stephen, but you particularly, you take care of a lot of the resources that we're given. And I know, I'm just thinking particularly in the last month, we've had some large item bills. Now, for large item bills, just to let all of you faithful out there know, we have to get all of those approved, both from our finance council. They have to approve it unanimously, and then it has to go to the archdiocese, and basically the bishop has to sign off and these are large items. And so we just recently had 2 large item things. We had paved our parking lot, which is a large item, and then we also did the landscaping, which was a large item. And so you really can see the generosity of people that contributed to help make that possible. Okay. I mean, it's pretty hard, in your budget to budget for these really large item things. So, so several people step forward and say, hey, we'd like to help do this or help do that. And so they kind of make that possible. And again, you get to see that generosity and facilitate that.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, I see stewardship as taking care of what we already have. And here as we're here because our ultimate goal is to lift up the kingdom of God. So, the landscaping, the paving contributes to that. And, extends to the parishioners, and I just see it as this revolving give-take between the church and the parishioners. And
you have a role that really helps me, but it also helps our finance council know what we can do and what we can't do. I mean, there's a limited number of resources out there, and we want to maximize that potential, but we don't want to go over that potential. Can't, and it's almost like I know so many people don't write checks anymore, but my image in my mind is, yeah, I know. Well, this is our generational thing. In my mind, I often think you can't write a check for more than what's in the checking account. You have to be overdraft. We can't do that. So that's why you keep us informed. And then also we have all of these lay ministers. You've had the luxury of listening to a lot of them. Well, they all have a budget. They have to live within their budgets. Susie's blessed enough on a monthly basis to give them a copy of where they are in their budget, how much they spend, and all that's really helpful. So
I see it as a huge responsibility, not only to the staff and to the ministers, but also to the parishioners, for me to be wise and diligent with how I record, where I put it, how we're spending it. And I'm grateful to witness that.
At the end of the year, we publish with Archdiocese. We publish all of our expenses and where it all goes. So we try and make every effort to be transparent and to let everyone know, how we're spending the gifts that we've been given. It's an enormous task. I mean, I find it to be pretty daunting. If you were in a parish that had, an annual income of, let's just say, $50,000 to $100,000, you wouldn't have a lot of bookkeeping to do. But if you're in a parish that has an annual income of over $2 million, you can only imagine where, all of that gets spent, and I know you just let me know this year that, our payroll, which for all of our ministers has reached a certain point that's pretty high and a lot higher than it was last year. And that's very helpful to me to understand that, in the big picture of things. And and we're blessed to have so many lay ministers that really do, all of them work for you. They work for our parishioners. They work for the faithful. And they really do bring about a lot of good.
I was reading about the parable, and you're going to have to clarify it, about the 3 sacks of gold and 2 invested and one didn't.
I like to use that. He buried it. He buried it. He buried it because he was scared. He was scared that he wouldn't be able to do anything with it. And he said, I don't want the master to be mad at me, so I'm just going to bury what he gave me and give it back to him when he comes back. And the master called him a lazy lout. And I was like, well, I wouldn't want to be called a lazy lout by Jesus. I really wouldn't. All they wanted him to do was do something with it. And if he would have even done something with it and it wouldn't have been that much, the master still would have been happy. And we realized that everyone was not given the same gifts and talents. We know that. But what Christ is really asking us to do is to do the very best we possibly can with all of our gifts and talents. So you have a great talent for helping us to do that. So we appreciate that what you do, and we appreciate all the generosity of so many of our parishioners.